The ability to make it up as I went was absolutely necessary in all of my jobs at the theme parks. With all three of my jobs at the theme parks, driving Rhino Rally at Busch Gardens, being a photographer at Walt Disney World, and robbing trains and being a conductor at Silver Dollar City, my impromptu skills were put to the test. I had to learn how to be able to react, to flex, just plain make it up as I went, to be able to do my job not just effectively for the basic job, but to make the experience the most magical, memorable one I could for the guests. Two of my jobs, Rhino Rally and robbing trains at Silver Dollar City, both had pre-written scripts, and we would use those as our basic launching place to do everything. Most of what we did on those rides was already scripted. We wouldn't just have to read the script and memorize it and say it exactly like that. One of the nice things about both of those jobs was they had various different options and extras and other things that you could do. So for example, on Rhino Rally, you didn't have just one big long line that you would read about the elephants. You had about 5 or 6 different options that you could do, some of which were funnier than others. And that was true for pretty much every part of the ride. You had various different facts about the animals you would learn. You would also have various jokes that you could learn for the whole thing. And you had the opportunity and the option to mix and match those. So it gave you a little bit of pre-planned spontaneity that you could actually look at your writers and kind of adjust what you were doing based on them. So if you had a group that was in a really rowdy mood, they were laughing and joking, hey, that's when you pull out all the jokes. If you had a group that was kind of more serious and somber and
We're here to see the animals,
then you would be able to gauge your whole spiel for them and a little more serious and not as many of the jokes. So if you had a good group, you would pull out, what do flamingos look like when they eat Skittles? And if you didn't, well, then you would just talk about the fact that they ate shrimp, and that's where they got their color from. So you had the ability, and really the necessity, to be able to adjust what you were doing based on the group. But it also gave you an ability to be able to change what you were doing based on what the group was doing. And you had to learn that if your group was doing something that wasn't in the script, or an animal did something that wasn't in the script, you had to be able to get creative on the fly. One of the things that was not in our script on Rhino Rally was the way the scimitar-horned oryx would kind of check and see if the females were ready to mate or not. It was not an expected thing. It was actually kind of gross, and it's not what you're thinking, I promise you that. But when it would happen, we would have people on the ride ask, well, why are they doing that? And yeah, depending on the group and how old the kids were in there, you may have to change and adjust your answer. That wasn't scripted at all. When you came out and you found them doing certain things, you had to be ready to explain in a way that worked, or be able to crack some jokes about them being just really thirsty at the moment. This was also especially true in the water portion of the ride, where your whole reaction really depended upon the group and how could you make it up and respond to them. It became a very writer-oriented ride. What you did as a driver was really based on your writers. The train was also very much like this, and we had an absolute script that we stuck to, so you could be prepared to see the same kinds of things. Hey, there's 9 Yankees up the road stopping our train. People would see the train so often they would memorize it, and you'd occasionally have them trying to spit the lines out with you, which wasn't good. But we also had to be able to vary it. We were constantly making up new lines, trying new things out. When I was out there with Kevin and Kevin, in particular, we never knew which way we were going to go, because those two were a couple of the most creative minds. Devin was also amazing at this, and Josh, and the robbers were always looking at ways to stump the conductors too, which created a lot of things, and you had to be able to roll with it. If you walked up and your robber's throwing some new line out at you, okay, what are you going to do? You can't just stand there and go, Or if the riders on the train do something. Josh and I were out there robbing the train, and we had this baby that just would not stop crying. And it wasn't just a soft cry, it was a loud cry. And it was only anytime Josh spoke. It was hilarious because me and the other guy, we could get our lines, and as soon as Josh started to talk, you would hear this baby. And we're trying to deliver the lines, and what do we do? And Josh finally comes out with this, I could do this if that kid would just let me get a word in edgewise. And of course we all lost it. When people gave us things on the train, we would adjust what we were doing based on what that was, whether it was hats or snacks. And one time Josh was given a bag of those chip fries. I forget what they're called offhand. And he's Alfie, and so he's the smart one, and so as we get done robbing the train and we get back up to the top, Josh hands me this bag of chip fries. Well, I'm not real big into them, so I'm not going to eat them, and I'm Ralphie, I'm the dumb one, so I gotta do something different. So I open them up. Josh thinks that I'm eating them, and actually what I did was I pulled two out and I stuck one up each side of my nose. And then I looked at Josh and went, Josh's big mistake was turning around and looking at me. So we would constantly make things up. And if you had something that happened on the train, say it got stuck out there because they had to drive an ambulance in, or something broke on the engine, or something else delayed us, well then we're definitely making stuff up as we go. And what kind of jokes can we think of? And what else can we talk about? Being able to improvise was huge in a situation like that, because we had a couple times we had trains sitting out there for almost an hour instead of 10 or 15 minutes. What do you do for that extra 30 to 45 minutes? Well, you're making it up and keeping them entertained, because at no point do you want those poor guests sitting there thinking, I'm bored, this stinks, we can't go anywhere. You want to make it fun for them. Those improvisation skills are absolutely necessary. And I figured that we were doing okay when I was out there robbing with Kevin on several occasions, and one of the engineers who'd been out there for years and seen the show I don't know how many hundreds and thousands of times, would always step out and watch us robbing. Like, well, Kevin and I are definitely improving pretty well if he wants to watch what happens when he's seen this so many times. So it gave us a good hit. We were doing okay. But even at Disney, improv skills were very important. When you would have guests come up and ask questions trying to break down the walls, asking you if Mickey has an air conditioner in his head, or is Mickey a girl, or questions like that. Why is there a wire coming from the castle? When you would have questions like that, you had to be able to improvise answers that would fit in with the magic of the park, get them to stop asking and help them to leave satisfied. It became valuable on Main Street and Hollywood Boulevard when we were taking pictures of the icons, because those improv skills would help us to get smiles out of the guests, to be able to know what to say to make them smile or laugh or have fun. It would actually even be huge in helping us to figure out what kind of creative shots we were going to do. Are we going to just have a shot where everybody's standing like this or like this? Or are we going to do something different with them that's going to be able to bring out more fun and help them to remember the shot and give you a better photo to begin with? Being able to understand why somebody isn't happy and helping to meet that is an improv skill. Valuable with kids when they just see the camera and want to get cranky. Okay, how can you work with that child to make them happy? It was also a huge help when we're getting ready for parades. The photographers at parade time, oftentimes people would just stay on the side and they wouldn't want to get their pictures anymore. It made it harder for you to get photos, so you had to kind of learn how to work the crowds a little bit to be able to spot things to shoot. But we would also take to entertaining the guests. We had one time on Hollywood Boulevard that we got the whole street doing the wave because we decided to improvise and have some fun. We had several times where it was about time for us to step off. The parade wasn't quite there yet, but it was coming in just a few minutes, and so the photographers did our own impromptu parade. And we would line up and we would march off all in unison, and we'd sing some silly song. Yes, you'd hear all the photographers singing, hi-ho, we're quitting work to go. We had a ball. Even sometimes playing with the other photographers while they're trying to take a picture to help get reactions out of them. So impromptu was big with that, and to be able to help you find out what a guest needed. Even with the characters though, face characters were pretty good on their own because they could talk. We would interact, we would talk some, but it was really the face characters show. They got to take care of it, and if they wanted something or needed something, they would talk to us. Fur characters, on the other hand, like Mickey and Donald and Minnie and Goofy and Pluto, they didn't talk out loud. So you had to learn to read what the character was saying to be able to help the character communicate with the guest when they couldn't understand. Also, to be able to help guide the interaction sometimes, to come up with ideas. If you can tell the character's trying to think of something, hey, how can we help make it better? Sometimes being able to just build bridges, sometimes being able to actually make the whole interaction great. Interactions were wonderful, but you wanted them to be more than just a,
"Hi, Mickey, here's my autograph book."
that's sad. Anybody can do that. So you wanted to try to find a way to help the character, not steal their thunder, not tell the character what to do, but to learn the character and know them well enough that you can come up with ideas to help them do something. If you see a guest bouncing along in line because you're able to watch that line a whole lot more than the character can. Hey, Mickey, this little one likes to dance. She was dancing all over the place in line. Now just that one little impromptu line and suggestion has given Mickey a big hint of what he can do with this little girl to make it fun and memorable. I'm not telling Mickey to dance with her, and he can if he wants, or he can do something else like tell her to dance and watch her, or come up with other things. The little bit of impromptu gives them a guidance and a suggestion. And a lot of it is knowing what your limits are. You didn't want to step on the character's feet. And I did watch some photographers that would rub characters the wrong way because they would try to direct everything. That you definitely did not want to do. It's the character's show, not the photographer's. We're not a director, we're an assistant. A lot of times it was just trying to figure out what works and what doesn't. And in particular, knowing when to take the norm and being able to deviate from that in a way to make it extra special. That was probably the hardest skill for a lot of photographers because we had a set rhythm, we had a set pattern, we had set certain things that we would do. And learning when to take that and say, you know what, I don't need to do that. I need to do something different here. And that's going to make all the difference in this experience. That was huge. It was one of the reasons why, if I had time at Disney, I would go through and I would look at other pictures that other photographers were shooting. I wanted to see what other poses they did. I wanted to see what moments they captured. I was constantly bugging them, hey, did you have anything neat and special? Let me learn from what you do so that way I can glean all of this, let it stew and stir, and then can I come up with something different? When I was a Rover at Epcot and Magic Kingdom, the impromptu skills were huge because they allowed me to look at a family, look at guests, look at what was going on around, and come up with ideas spontaneously of what they could do that would make a good photo, what they could try to do, how they could pose, what would work as a photo. It also allowed me to capture candidates when they were doing things and didn't know I was taking pictures. Yes, taking those impromptu skills of what to say and how to say it also works in opening up your eyes to watch what's going on around and say, that would be an awesome photo, that definitely would not be. Flexibility is huge, and that all kind of comes out of being able to be impromptu. Have you seen ways that cast members and theme park employees have improvised and done something out of the ordinary? Have you seen a way that they created a line that may have been really funny or really original? I'd love to hear it. Share your original stories below, or maybe something that you did that was just completely spontaneous of the moment that just worked fantastic. Or completely bombed. Please don't hesitate to share it below. Thank you so much for liking and sharing the video. Thank you for subscribing if you haven't already. And if you haven't, what are you waiting for? Hit subscribe, hit the share button, let people know if you enjoyed the video. Be sure to check the description, tons of information there. And a huge shout out to my patrons and my supporters. If you want to know more about supporting me, either hit the join button below, check out Patreon, there's a link in the description. Thank you so incredibly much for watching, and God bless. So if you had a good group, hey, you pull out the what do... You know, I could do this if that kid would just let me get a word with... Even things like getting... When I was Rover photographer... When I was a Rover at Epcot in Walt Disney World. Of course I was at Walt Disney World. Have you seen ways that cast members and employees have been able to be... If you'd like to know about my merchandise, fan pages, and more, be sure to check the description below. If you'd like to know whenever I've got a new video posted, well, make sure you hit that button right up there and subscribe. If you'd like to watch another one of my videos, I've got a great one for you right here. And if you'd like to be like these wonderful people here and support me financially on Patreon, well, make sure you check the link right there. There's even some extra perks for them. Thank you so much, and God bless.